You feel it before you see it. A shift in the air. The way silence carries weight, not emptiness. They look away, but it is not escape. It is the kind of distance that leans forward, just enough to keep you wondering, just enough to keep you searching the edges of their presence. 9 little signs whisper the truth you already sense. First, the stillness is alive, not the stillness of absence, but the stillness of someone watching without letting you know. Silence that listens more than it speaks is not the same as emptiness. It is not a void without meaning. It is a space that breathes, a quietness that holds within it 1,000 unsaid things. This silence does not push you away, it pulls you in. It draws you to look deeper, to notice the pauses between breaths, the subtle changes in the air, the way the moment stretches without breaking. There is a presence inside that quiet, a kind of awareness that is fully awake even when no words are spoken. It is the difference between silence that ignores and silence that absorbs. When someone listens with more silence than speech, it feels as if they are studying not just your words, but the spaces between them. They catch the hesitations, the tone, the weight you place on certain syllables. They are tuned not only to what you say, but to what you cannot say. In such moments, the silence feels almost alive, like a living entity between two people. It is warm, not cold. It is heavy with meaning, not barren of it. They allow it to exist, not rushing to fill it, not breaking it with empty chatter. And yet, this silence is not passive. It works quietly, holding your words, processing them, letting them sink deep instead of skimming the surface. It is the silence of someone who notices details without needing to announce that they noticed. The flicker in your expression, the way your hands move when you are explaining something, the subtle shift in your voice when a certain subject is mentioned. None of it is lost. This kind of silence can be disarming. You may find yourself saying more than you planned, revealing things you didn't intend to, simply because the quiet feels safe. It is a silence that tells you your words are not being measured against some expectation, but are being received in their raw, unpolished form. It is the silence of attention, and attention is rare. In a world where people are often distracted, where voices compete for space, the one who listens without interrupting, without steering the conversation back to themselves, stands apart. The listening silence also carries a rhythm. It is not constant or rigid. It adjusts to you, flowing in moments when you need space, stepping in closer when you feel uncertain. It is a silence that communicates without words, telling you, I am here. I am hearing you. I am holding this with you. And even if nothing more is said, you feel it. You feel understood, not because someone gave you the perfect reply, but because they made space for your words to exist. Sometimes this silence lingers, even after the conversation ends. You find yourself thinking about it later, the way it felt, the way it stayed in the room, long after the words had stopped. That lingering presence is its own form of connection. It suggests that the listening was not a performance, not a role to be played, but an authentic engagement. The quiet listener does not need to fill the air to prove they are with you. Their silence says more than rushed sentences ever could. It is a form of presence that holds weight, a kind of invisible thread that connects one heart to another without noise, without spectacle, without demand. This is why silence that listens more than it speaks stays with you. It leaves an imprint that words alone could never make. Eyes that turn away, but never leave, carry a language of their own, one that speaks in glances, pauses, and the subtle gravity of attention that refuses to be admitted out loud. There is a way the gaze shifts, not in disinterest, but in restraint. It looks elsewhere, yet remains tethered, like a kite drifting against the wind, but never truly breaking free from the string that holds it. This turning away is not a dismissal, it is a disguise, a way to hide the truth that the pull is still there. You can feel it in the moments when their eyes find yours for just long enough to say something they will not voice, before darting away as if to erase the evidence. There is a rhythm to these glances. They may seem fleeting, but they happen too often to be accidental. In the space of a conversation, their eyes might wander to the floor, to the window, to anything that keeps them from locking fully onto yours, yet somehow they always come back. Like the tide returning to shore, the glance circles back again and again, each time carrying something unspoken. This is the paradox, the effort to appear unaffected, while the eyes betray what the voice tries to hide. You notice it when you speak. Even as they look away, you sense the quiet attention anchoring to your words. Their gaze might rest on a distant object, but there is a subtle stillness in their posture that tells you they are not truly focused on what they are pretending to look at. The turning away is an act of control, as if looking too long might reveal more than they are ready to. But when you glance toward them unexpectedly, you sometimes catch the quick withdrawal. The eyes snapping away just a fraction too late, the slight tension that comes from being seen while they were looking. There is also the way their eyes follow you without following you. Across a room, you might feel it before you see it. A pull, a soft weight at your back that makes you turn. And when you do, you catch just the edge of it, the remnant of a glance that has already slipped away. They will busy themselves with something else, as though the connection never happened. But the truth lingers in the space between moments, in the way your awareness of each other hums quietly beneath the surface. In more intimate settings, the turning away becomes even more layered. Sometimes it comes right after a moment of closeness, as though holding eye contact for too long would be too revealing. Sometimes it comes in the middle of laughter, the eyes pulling back just when the warmth feels strongest, a retreat that feels almost like protection. And other times, it comes without reason, simply because the weight of being seen too clearly is more than they want to allow. Even when they turn away, there is a part of them that remains fixed on you. You see it in the small delays, the almost imperceptible hesitations before the gaze breaks. You sense it in the way the air shifts when your eyes do meet, how everything else seems to fade for a fraction of a second. That pull does not vanish with the turning away. It only hides itself, waiting in the quiet for another chance to surface. The eyes may move elsewhere, but the presence stays, anchored to you in ways that distance cannot undo. Distance that circles instead of escapes carries a different energy than distance meant to sever ties. It moves in patterns that keep you within reach, even when the steps taken appear to create space. This kind of distance is not about disappearance. It is about orbit. Like the moon around the earth, it moves away only to return, always held by an invisible pull that prevents it from drifting too far. You notice it in the way they create space yet never leave it empty. Even when they are not right beside you, their presence loops back into your life, weaving itself in and out in a rhythm that feels deliberate. It is in the small moments, the way they show up in places you didn't expect, the way they cross paths with you, without it feeling entirely coincidental. There is a subtle pattern to it, a quiet consistency disguised as randomness. They keep their distance just enough to maintain a sense of control, yet something always draws them back. This circling has a way of keeping you within their line of sight, not constantly, but often enough that the connection never fully loosens. You can feel it in their timing. They might step away when things grow too intense, creating a pause that gives them breathing room, but before long, they return. The gap between their appearances is never so long that you forget their presence. It is as if they understand the art of keeping you close without holding too tightly, of disappearing just enough to make their re-entry felt. There is a rhythm to this dance, close, far, close again, each movement carefully balanced so as not to break the thread between you. This type of distance often feels like a game of tides. It pulls back slowly, almost imperceptibly, and just when you adjust to its absence, it rushes forward again, covering the space it created. The reappearance feels both surprising and familiar, as if part of you knew they would circle back. It's not the kind of distance that leaves you wondering whether they're gone for good. It's the kind that makes you certain they will return, even if you can't predict exactly when or how. There's an awareness in the way they manage this space. They never vanish without leaving traces behind. A message sent at just the right time, an unexpected question that pulls you into conversation again, a gesture that reminds you they have not drifted too far. The circling distance allows them to maintain a sense of freedom while still keeping the connection alive. It is not about absence, it is about pacing. They seem to understand that constant presence can dull the spark, so they choose movement that preserves it. Enough closeness to nurture, enough space to keep it alive. In their absence, you might even notice the invisible thread more sharply. The quiet moments they are gone seem to make the return feel stronger. The connection feels refreshed each time the circle closes again, like the way seasons change only to bring familiar blooms back into view. The space they create never feels like a final departure. Instead, it feels like a curve in the path, a temporary arc that always bends back toward you. This distance is not a wall, it is a pattern. It is the art of staying near without being constant, of keeping the connection alive through movement rather than stillness. Even when they step away, the orbit remains unbroken, the circle never truly opening. The pull that keeps them circling is not one that seeks to escape, but one that keeps them moving in ways that ensure they never really leave. Memory that keeps your smallest details alive is a quiet yet undeniable sign of attention. It is in the way they recall fragments you barely noticed yourself, a color you wore once in passing, the exact phrasing of something you said weeks ago, the small habit you have when you're deep in thought. These details are not stored by accident. They are kept because they mattered in the moment, because something about them stayed. The human mind does not hold on to everything. It filters, it forgets. But when certain pieces remain, it is because they have found a place worth keeping. You notice it when they bring something up casually, as though it is nothing, yet the timing feels deliberate. They might mention that cafe you said you liked, or the book you once recommended without thinking much of it. It is not just that they remember, it is that they remember precisely. The tone you used, the way your eyes shifted when you spoke about it, the little emphasis you placed on a certain word. These are the kind of things most people's minds let slip, yet in their memory, they are anchored firmly. There is a softness in the way these memories surface. Sometimes they appear in conversation without fanfare, as if they have simply been living in the back of their mind, waiting for the right moment to step forward. Other times, they emerge in subtle actions, choosing a place because you once said you liked its atmosphere, adjusting something in a way that mirrors your preference, surprising you with something you only mentioned in passing. It is the kind of attention that listens beyond the moment and carries the details forward. You can feel the depth of this kind of memory because it does not chase the obvious. It is not about remembering birthdays or major events, though those matter too. It is about the way they hold onto the tiny, easily overlooked pieces. The exact way you take your coffee, the song you said made you feel calm, the way your mood changes when the weather shifts. These are not grand declarations, but they are quiet affirmations that you are seen, not just in the large moments, but in the smallest corners of your life. What makes this memory so telling is its persistence. Weeks or months later, something you forgot you even said will reappear, perfectly intact. It tells you that your presence lingers in their mind, even when you are not there. The details are not filed away like meaningless data. They are woven into how they think about you. They do not need reminders, because the memory is not forced. It has stayed naturally, the way certain songs get stuck in the mind without trying. There is also intention behind the recall. Sometimes they will mention a detail just to see the look on your face when you realize they remembered. Other times they hold it quietly, using it without acknowledgement, letting it shape the way they interact with you without needing to take credit for it. In both cases, the act of remembering carries weight because it shows that your words and actions leave impressions they cannot or do not want to erase. The smallest details often reveal the largest truths. When someone holds on to them, it means they have been paying attention in moments when you thought nothing significant was happening. The memory becomes proof that you are not just passing through their awareness. You are leaving traces they choose to keep, traces that shape the way they see you each time you step into their mind again. Contradictions that reveal what words hide often live in the subtle gap between intention and expression. They can be felt in the way actions lean toward one truth while spoken words point in another direction. It is the slight dissonance that catches your attention, the behavior that does not quite match the story being told. They might say something with certainty, but the way they move, pause, or react tells you there is more beneath the surface. This is not always deliberate deception. Sometimes it is the quiet struggle between wanting to protect themselves and being unable to mask what is real. You notice it in fleeting moments. Perhaps they insist they are fine, yet their tone carries a softness that suggests otherwise. They might claim they are distant or detached, yet they appear exactly where you are, finding reasons to stay close without admitting it. Their body language may lean in even as their words try to create distance. A quick glance held a fraction too long, a question asked as though it's casual but loaded with meaning, a reaction that escapes before they can control it. These are the quiet slips where the truth escapes. Sometimes the contradictions are even more layered. They may avoid deep conversations yet respond instantly when you reach out. They might keep their messages short, yet choose each one with care, making sure it carries just enough warmth to keep the connection alive. They could claim to be unaffected, yet recall something you said weeks ago with exact detail. These contradictions do not cancel each other out. They reveal that the surface does not tell the full story. In these moments, you begin to see that their words may be a shield. The shield can be used for many reasons: to protect their feelings, to keep control over how much they reveal, to slow down the pace of connection. Yet despite the shield, their actions often betray the presence of something they will not name. The effort to appear unmoved requires consistency, and when that consistency slips, it is rarely by accident. A contradiction is a crack in the armor, and through that crack, the light of truth filters in. It can happen in physical presence, too. They might place themselves just far enough to appear uninvolved, yet somehow always within sight. They may avoid prolonged eye contact, yet when your eyes do meet, there is a stillness that makes it hard to look away. They might resist being the first to speak, yet their responses carry an attentiveness that says they have been listening all along. The contradiction lies in the tension between what they present outwardly and what they cannot stop themselves from showing. Even in absence, these contradictions can remain visible. They might not reach out often, yet when they do, it's at a moment when you most feel the gap between you. They could disappear for days, only to return with something thoughtful or specific, revealing that you were still present in their mind, even when they were silent. The rhythm between their retreat and return tells you that detachment is not the whole truth. Contradictions are not always signs of confusion. Sometimes they are signs of depth. They reveal that there is an ongoing negotiation between the desire to stay hidden and the pull to be known. When someone's words and actions do not fully align, it invites you to look at the spaces in between, the moments where instinct overpowers intention. These small, unguarded signals often hold more truth than the carefully chosen phrases meant to define what they feel. Presence that lingers long after they're gone is not something you can see, yet it is felt in the quiet spaces of your day. It is in the way certain moments feel fuller than they should, as if a trace of them remains in the air even when the room is empty. This presence is not dependent on constant contact. It lives in the mind, in the small reminders scattered through ordinary life. You might be doing something simple, pouring a cup of tea, walking past a place you once crossed together, and suddenly they are there, not physically, but in the pull of memory and feeling that rises without warning. It is not only tied to the big, memorable events. Often it is the smallest things that bring them back. A tone of voice you overhear that sounds like theirs, a gesture someone else makes that echoes their movements, a scent that matches the one you once noticed on them. These moments create a quiet return, a soft re-entry into your awareness that feels both unexpected and natural. It is as if their presence has taken root somewhere beneath the surface, surfacing without asking permission. Sometimes it is less about memory and more about sensation. You might catch yourself feeling as though they are nearby, even when you know they are far away. This is not imagination in the ordinary sense. It is the residue of connection, the way certain bonds leave an imprint strong enough to be felt without physical contact. It's the same way a song can keep playing in your head long after it has stopped. Not because you choose it, but because something in it refuses to fade. Their presence also shows up in your thoughts when you are not looking for it. In conversations, you might find yourself thinking about what they would say. In choices, you might notice how their perspective subtly influences you. They exist in your mind like a quiet voice that doesn't need to speak out loud to be heard. This kind of lingering is not loud or demanding. It is woven into the background, steady and consistent, reminding you they have become part of your inner landscape. It can be felt even in absence of communication. Days may pass without a message or a meeting, yet the sense of them remains as strong as if you had spoken just hours ago. This is not about constant interaction. It is about the mark they have left on the way you experience the world. When someone's presence lingers, it changes how you notice things, how you interpret certain moments. You become aware of the way they have shaped your attention without needing to be reminded directly. There is a weight to this lingering presence, but it is not heavy in a burdensome way. It feels more like a soft shadow that moves with you, a reminder that certain connections are not erased by time or distance. Even when the physical closeness is absent, the emotional closeness remains, living in the places they once occupied and in the spaces you carry within yourself. You begin to realize that their absence is not truly absence at all. They have become a thread woven into your days, an unseen presence that accompanies you in subtle ways. This lingering is not about longing alone. It is about the undeniable truth that some people leave an imprint strong enough to stay, regardless of how much physical space lies between you. Some connections speak in whispers, not declarations. They live in the spaces between words, in the quiet pull of glances, in the rhythm of presence and absence that never quite breaks. You see it in the way silence listens, in eyes that turn away yet remain, in distance that circles instead of escapes, in memories that hold on to your smallest details, in contradictions that reveal more than they hide, and in a presence that lingers long after it's gone. These are the signs that remind you what is felt deeply does not need to be announced loudly, and what is real has a way of staying, even when it pretends to leave.